Hello everyone, this is Asian Wonder again. The reason why I chose these Invicta watches, these big face watches, is it had three characteristics that I really believe in. You know, the three things was the big face, to remind us to think big. Invicta means invincible in Latin, and I feel that together as a team, my business partners and I will succeed and will become invincible in the business world. And third, the big clock to remind us what time it is and to never lose sight of where we need to be to move our company and our business and ourselves forward. The first thing is that you'll notice that it's a very big face watch. Now, to give you an idea how big it is, right, it's a 52 millimeter. It's 51 and a half actually. I just ran it off to 52, but it's 52 millimeters across right here. And to give you an idea, so when you're watching this video, here I have a dollar bill, typical US dollar bill, and look at how big this thing is. It's so big that it covers up the dollar bill from behind it. See that? So it's pretty large size right there. So here's the regular dollar bill, and there's the size of it. According to Amazon, the diameter of this huge face right here is 51 and a half millimeters. And I'm not sure how thick it is, but I used to be a machinist, and if I had to guess how thick this watch is, I would say that it's at least ½ an inch thick. If you look at the front right here, you'll notice that there's several hands. You got the one for the minute, and then you got one for the hour. And I don't know if you can see it without the glare of the light here, but there's also a second hand, and there's also a red hand to time the 24-hour clock, the GMT time, or the military time, right? And I really like it because there's other versions of this that does not have the military time, and I just think that the military time on there, the GMT time, is really cool. Especially because I do a lot of stock trading and a lot of currency trading for my business. I like that 24-hour clock, so I can tell what time London opens for their currency exchange, and what time Tokyo opens, what time the US opens, and everything, New York. So it's not just, it just doesn't look good, but it also benefits me in my the stock trading and the forex trading that I do. Now, in addition to the face here, you'll also notice that over here there's also a small window for the date, which is really helpful too. Just one disadvantage about this is that depends upon what month it is, since you have to set the date. There are certain months where it's 30, 31 days, 28 days. You might miss it, so I can't remember, but every couple of months or so I have to adjust the date on there manually, and then it's good for another couple of months or so. Don't quote me on that. I know that it's more than 1 month. The other thing that I'd also like too is the color of it. This one here is a bright neon green, and it glows really well in the dark. I mean, even with the video lights that I have on this light right now, it really glows really well. I've put a cell phone light, my Palm Pre. I've put the light from the Palm Pre on here before, take it away, and it glows in the dark really well. The other thing too that you'll notice is that on the ridge of this, they have ridges right here, right? And they also have ridges here also. Now, the reason why they do that is just to sample. In the old days, they copied these ridges from the coin making. When the Romans used to make coins, they were afraid that one of the ways that they prevented people from skimping off to shave the gold off, because if you shave off a little fraction of gold off of a gold coin from the old Roman days, if you did it all over a few hundred coins, you would have enough gold dust to make you another coin. And so what the Romans did was they would cut these grooves in here so that if somebody tried to shave the gold coins, you can tell that it was shaved. And so now you can tell that the Invicta watch company, they did the same thing here to replicate those grooves and those ridges. And they did the same thing here for this on the crown right here also. And if you look in the catalogs and online and everything, you'll notice that this model 6608 right here, this Russian diver, it's labeled under the signature collection. And all that simply means is that every year Invicta will come out with 2009, they'll come out with the Russian Diver Extreme Edition, and then in 2010 they came out with this Russian Diver Signature Collection. So each year they have a different name or a different label for the collection, and they'll add like one little thing. Like for example, on this one they added the 24-hour GMT, or the military time, and then they added the clock. And that was enough to make it a different collection. And what they're doing is just for marketing reasons. They just want to sell different watches each year and force people to collect them and buy different ones. And all it is just the same, pretty much the same watch. They have the same look. They all look nice. It doesn't matter which collection, the 2008, 2009, 2010 model. They're all the same big face, in your face grandfather clock you're wearing on your wrist anyway. Now you'll notice that if I unscrew this right here, that I can just leave it hanging right here, that there's a little chain here. It's about 1.5 inches from here to here. And you'll notice that inside it's very well machined. I can tell because I used to be a machinist. The only thing is that I wish that they would have machined the thread out right here just a little bit farther out so that you can have more threads in there. Because right now you're screwing down maybe about, I would say about 4 threads. And if you look real closely, I don't want to bring too close and blur the camera, but if you look real closely, there's a rubber seal right here. And this crown is designed so that it goes on and it seals it tight so that when you try to, the water won't get in here. And keep in mind, this watch was built by Invicta to commemorate and to honor the 1959 the actual Russian diving watch that was commissioned by the Russian naval fleet. And you'll see that it's huge. It has a 26mm band right here, and that was so that when the Russian divers were diving, they could put it over their wetsuit, their diving suit, and that's why it's so big. And so they can see it underwater through their diving helmets and diving goggles, or whatever it was they used back in 1959. And this thing here will pull out, the first time you pull it out, it adjusts the time. The second time you pull it out, it adjusts the date. I'm not exactly sure, don't quote me on it. When you go home and do it yourself. I don't want to do it and mess up the time and have to reset it again. Okay? Now, when you screw this thing on, make sure you just screw it on real lightly, and that should be good to go. You don't have to over tighten it because the threads are so fine and the seal is so well that there's no need to over tighten it. Now some people don't like this hanging chain right here to keep the cap from falling off, but I think it's pretty cool and it's pretty unique. It's the only watch I've ever seen that has a chain attached to the crown and has such a huge crown. Now if you go down the side, you'll notice it's got a buckle type clasp right here, and the rubber is really thick. Now keep in mind, folks, that there's something here that you want to pay attention to. When the big face watches first came out and became trendy, you'll notice that a lot of people, a lot of companies were building these big face watches, and all they did was they would take the same gut inside of those smaller watches and build a bigger gut on the outside. And you can see a lot of that in the Fossil watches and in the, I forget what the other one, but most of the watches that you see at Dillard's and Macy's, they're all smaller watches. They just built a bigger frame around it. Whereas this watch, now I haven't opened it to see what the inside looks like, but it looks like it's very clear to me that it's a big face watch. The watch, the guts, everything inside were meant to be big to begin with. They just didn't take the small watches and just build a big shell or a big case around it like most of the other watches you see that are big face. And you can tell because the other ones, they would use the bands from the 42mm watches. They would use the 42mm watch bands on the 50mm watches, and that doesn't make any sense. So one thing that attracted me to this Invicta was that the bands are just as wide in proportion to the face of the watch. So it makes sense. So you're not walking around with this huge clock on your arm and there's a tiny little BS string for a watch band. So I prefer this a lot more as far as big faces go. And on the bands, on the rubber bands, you'll notice that there's these lugs, these stainless steel lugs right here. It's very well solid put in. I don't know if you can see it on the camera or not, but there's flathead screws here that you can unscrew to take the lugs in and out. There's no reason to take them out unless you're cleaning them or something, right? So there's lugs on both sides, and it's just a semicircle cylinder lug. It's not a full cylinder, because if you look at it from the side here, you'll notice that it's round on this side, but it's flat on this side. And obviously you don't want it to be round on this side because then it'll pinch your wrist or something when you wear it. Now as far as comfort goes, it just depends. Like at first I didn't find it to be very comfortable because the the rubber here is one of the hardest rubbers that you'll ever get on a watch. And it's on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say that the comfort level of this band, because it's so rigid and so stiff, it would be about, I would say around a 6, no more than a 7. And then now that I've worn it almost every day for a while now, for over a year when I was a personal trainer at Gold's Gym in North Austin, I would wear this watch to work every day. And the reason why it was my favorite work watch was because I'm very clumsy at the gym with my hands, so I would walk around, train people, and I would bump into equipment, machinery, and weights all the time. If you'll see real closely, I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a few scratches around the rim right here. And one thing that it won't scratch though is the display face right here, the dial face right here. It's made out of mineral. There's three types of faces that you can have. You can have the acrylic, which is the lowest grade, and then you can have the mineral, which is like a medium grade. It's much harder than the acrylic plastic, which can scratch. The mineral won't scratch. And then the highest level of face is the sapphire, which is extremely hard, and it won't scratch at all. I'm not worried about this because I know I've hit metal on top of this against the weight machines and the weight equipment at least a few hundred times during the year that a year and a half or so that I trained people at Gold's Gym. So I know it scratched the metal long before it scratched the glass. So you don't have to worry about it scratching. The other thing that I want to cover is the back. If you'll notice, a lot of watches on the back face, because nobody ever looks at the back of it, what they'll do is they'll make it really lousy, and they spend very little time on designing the back cover. But if you'll look at this one real closely, right, you'll notice that they spent a lot of time putting in a nice design. The lettering, the fonts, everything is really nice and neat, so that if you do look at the back, you don't get that feeling that it's a cheap watch. Like a lot of watches, they'll make it look real pretty and really nice and solid on the outside, but then when you flip it around to the back side, it's like, oh my god, like why did you make it so flimsy on the back when it looks so solid in the front? So on these Invicta watches, these Russian divers, it's solid every which way. I mean, they're really proud of their watches, and look, you'll notice that they even engrave Invicta on the side right here, which is pretty cool, and it's in the Times Roman font right here. The lettering, the numbering, and everything else in here is like in the Arial font on here. So that's pretty cool. And that's it for the specs, folks. If you can get it for less than $150, it's a pretty good deal. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would highly recommend it. At least a 9 for an everyday watch, for training, for going out, and even just for casual wear. It's really sporty, it's really nice, and I mean, this thing just gets huge attention. If you're a pimp, a Mac Daddy, a baller, a shot caller, anything like that, I mean, when you put this on your wrist and you make those shot calls, right, and you're a baller, I mean, it just makes a huge difference. People will know what time it is when you make that shot call. Good luck, and if you get it, have fun with it, and leave a comment behind so other people can see how you feel about the watch that you got. Tell us why you bought it, what it symbolizes to you, and how it feels and how comfortable it is. I hope that helps you out, guys, and I hope you guys have lots of fun wearing this Russian diver watch. Thank you.